I went from this to this? How'd that happen?
Good morning, everybody. It's Stephen here for Bland Designs, and welcome to my weekly vlog for Monday, June the 1st, 2020, or day 82 of my isolation. Hard to believe we've hit June already. I know a lot of people have been talking about during this COVID crisis and the isolation situation that time seems to drag. I have found the exact opposite. Time has gone by really fast for me. Maybe that's because I keep myself really busy, and I think that's a good thing. I think this is a time when I think it proves that as human beings, we need hobbies. We need distractions in our lives that we can continue with throughout our life, and it gives us something to do besides work. Now, I'm used to being sort of isolated because I'm retired. So I don't have to get up every morning and go to a job or anything like that. And that's been my life for the last 8 years because I've been retired that long. And so, the days can be kind of on the long side if you don't have something to do. And you know me, I've got lots of hobbies. I make my vlogs. I've got my YouTube channels. I've got my quilting. I've got my battle with my sewing machines. Little preview to what I'm going to be talking about again. My paper crafts, things like that. So there's always something to do. Now, I do have to admit, though, this situation is starting to get at me a little bit. Not a lot. I'm not on major, tranquilizers or anything like that, or, pulling my hair out the roots, although that might not be a bad idea right now because I definitely need a haircut. But what I'm saying is there are some moments during a day when I feel a little bit of depression creeping in. Now, I do not suffer from depression or anything like that. And as I said, I only get little touches of these. And I guess that's because, something I'm going to talk about a little later on is what you hear on TV and on YouTube channels and things like that about this whole crisis situation. And of course, it's going to get to us. But we have to carry on. It's for short-term pain for long-term gain, at least, I hope. So anyways, off that, let's move on here to what's behind me. This is what I referred to in my teaser as the mistake quilt. I have renamed it. This was based on a totally different pattern, a pattern called the Solstice Star. It was called the Solstice Star because it looked like a star, and I love star patterns. And this particular fabric line is known as Stonehenge, and it's from Northcott. And I love this line. It's got a very Celtic feel to it. But this is not the quilt, didn't end up to be the quilt that I had the pattern for. I have an idiot quilter, and it's listed in the show notes below, where I explain this in more detail and actually show you the evolution of how this went from a mistake to something I think that turned out fairly successful. I am renaming this now because it's no longer a star. I'm calling it the Celtic Square. And it is my own design, but what I did was all the pieces I already had cut, and I had all of them cut for this, and I had a lot of them sewn together because there was certain strip sets you had to put together and cut at 45-degree angles and things. Those were all made, and I certainly didn't want to waste the fabric. So I just decided to salvage what I had cut, and I created this out of it all. Now, the next stage in this quilt, this is just the quilt top, is to layer it and start quilting it. And I'm going to bite the bullet. I am going to layer this, and I am going to try to quilt it on my domestic sewing machine using a combination of what they call stitch in the ditch, maybe some ruler foot quilting, and I might even attempt a little bit of free motion quilting. At this point, I can't wreck it. It was already a mistake, kind of a thing. And I don't think I will wreck it. But I've been holding back. I have a whole bunch of quilts ready to go that I need to quilt, and I haven't done it yet because I have this block This block saying to me, you can't do this on your domestic machine. Yes, I can. I'm going to give it a shot. So anyways, I'm happy with the way that one turned out. Somebody asked me the other day, she's a friend of mine. She had been watching my Facebook and my channel and had seen the various quilts I've made, and she asked me a question. She says, what do you do with all of them? Yeah, that's a really good question. Okay. In the 2 years I've been quilting, I have now made close to probably 30 quilts in various sizes. Where do I put them? Well, I have what they call a quilt ladder or quilt stand, but it's full. I have them folded and hanging from it, so there's a bunch there. I have a whole bunch on my guest room bed laid out there because we never use that room. There are a few hanging on walls, and there are some that are draped over the couch in our rec room and on a couple of the chairs there as well. So yes, that's the quilts. Then there's the table runners. I've made quite a few of those, and banners, and they're kind of laid out and piled up on another table. So yeah, I'm being taken over by quilts. And you want to know something? I'm very possessive of my quilts because I put a lot of work and effort and thought into each one. But you know, once I'm done, they're done. I don't look at them again. They hang on that quilt rack or they're laying on that bed in the guest room, and I seldom look at them. I take pictures of them all, and I have started, but I haven't gotten very far in it, of doing a scrapbook style album of all the quilts I've made with a little story about them as to, you know, what the pattern was, how I got started. So far, I've only got my first 2 quilts in that book. I got to get to work on that more. But hey, I just thought of something. That's combining my 2 worlds, my paper crafting world and my quilting world, I guess, by doing that scrapbook. But she then said to me, she says, you know, I'd buy one from you. And my first reaction to that is, you know, you don't have to buy it from me. You're a friend. I said, I'll give you one. When this COVID thing's over and you can actually come over here and look at them in real time, you can pick one out for yourself, and that's it. She goes, well, no, she says, at least I would pay for the materials. Now, I'm not sure if she's aware of how much the materials cost in a quilt. And I don't think a lot of people are that don't quilt. And so they're astonished at the price that if they were to buy a quilt somewhere, what they cost. Well, fabric alone in a quilt, on an average quilt that I've made, probably runs anywhere from $250 up to $300. This one behind me, for example, at $15 a meter for fabric, and even though this is in pieces and cut together, there are 10 different fabrics in this. Now, I didn't use 10 meters of fabric yet. There's still the backing to go on here, and that's expensive as well. But you know, on $15 a meter, there's at least, well, not 10 meters, but there's, by the time you get cut and do all that kind of stuff, there's at least 5 meters of fabric in this quilt. And this is not a huge quilt. This is a good size throw. It's not a queen, it's not a twin, it's not a king. So there in itself. Plus, there's the batting. Batting is not cheap. Plus, there's what I've already said, the backing fabric. And that's usually one big piece of fabric. So it's several meters in size as well. So, you know, right there, you're talking about $150 just on this small quilt. Not to mention my time. And I don't know how you could put a price on the time. I mean, really. But anyways, so, you know, if I was to really sell like this quilt when it's done, oh, let's not forget about the time it takes to quilt it and the cost of thread. Thread's not cheap if you're using good quality thread. The thread that I use in my quilts for piecing is $15 a spool. And by the time you're done a quilt like this, well, you probably go through half a spool. But then when it comes to quilting it, you go through a lot more. So, yeah, that's why quilts are expensive. Okay, you add all those factors in. This quilt behind me, when it's done, a reasonable price for it, I would say, would be about $350. $350 to $500. Yeah. So that's why I'd rather just give them to friends, not charge them for them. I know it's somebody who really wants it. It's going to a good home. It won't be abused. Yeah. So that will probably be my plan post-COVID for some of my quilts. My family first, though. If they want a quilt, then they can come and they can pick what they want, and away it goes. Okay, that was a little bit of a digression. So, speaking of quilting and things, I'm always on the lookout on YouTube for men who quilt. And I've been finding more and more of them lately. And not just quilters, but men who knit, men who crochet. It's not just for women anymore, really. But I did find this particular YouTube channel, Fiber Hustle, and there are a couple of gay guys, which, as far as I'm concerned, that's a bonus. And I found them very amusing. You might not find them as amusing, I don't know, but check it out. This week's YouTube channel is one about quilting, sewing, and knitting, and is called Fiber Hustle. And what makes this one rather unique, and what inspires me, it is two gay guys actually, who are partners, who one knits and one quilts. And they talk about various aspects of both of those crafts. They do other crafts as well, but they focus primarily on sewing and on knitting. They're witty, they're fun, they're Americans. They come from Seattle, Washington State in the US, and they're just a whole lot of fun, and I find their views on quilting and sewing very refreshing. There are a few little in-jokes as well, and I think you need to be part of the tribe, so to speak, in order to understand them, but it's still a lot of fun. And they've been experimenting with doing live podcasts, and during this time of isolation, they've also been trying to add a little fun to live broadcasts by doing things like bingo and some other activities. So if you want an informative and entertaining YouTube channel that deals with sewing and knitting and fiber crafts, then check out Fiber Hustle. So the link to Fiber Hustle is in the show notes below, and in the show notes this week you're going to find quite a few entries, and I'll explain why. Of course, there's Stephen and Walter Live, that's in there. We had a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek discussion about the myths that women hold about men, but looking at it from a gay perspective, sort of being in the middle of those two worlds. And that was, well, actually it was meant to just be for fun, but some of the things that I say in there are actually things I think are true, but you be the judge. Also, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 Idiot Quilter episodes. I got really prolific this week in making those. One of them is on how to make flying geese. Flying geese are these things right here. These are flying geese, okay? And there are many ways to make them, but I found a way that with a special ruler that I really like, so I talk about that in that episode. I talk about the evolution of this quilt. I videotaped my progress on this when it went from the really botched up original pattern to what you see behind me now. And I called that changing disaster into success. And I also have another episode, 2 more episodes about my Janome 15,000 Horizon embroidery sewing machine and the problems I'm having, and I'm still having them. It's sort of an ongoing kind of thing. And here's something that's kind of funny, I find. I guess people love misery, or at least they can commiserate with me because they've had similar problems with some of their machines or whatever. Because the most views of any of my videos pretty much on the Idiot Quilter part of my channel are the ones about the problems I'm having with my sewing machine. So, and I've had a lot of people too make comments and suggestions on, what I can try to fix it, which I really appreciate because, well, you'll hear a little bit more about this later on in today's vlog. Okay, so that takes us to the book of the week. And I've already reviewed a couple of books about painting on fabric and that kind of thing. This book is about print making. It's a pretty extensive book about different things, different tools, things you can use. It's a fairly sophisticated book about printmaking. So this is, if you're just looking to do some decorative papers for wrapping up in a package or as a background, I don't know if you'd want to invest in a book like this, because this talks about all, you can see in the diagrams how detailed they are in the instruction. But if you're serious about printmaking, this is a really good reference guide for that on a more professional level. It is called The Printmaking Book. It's by Vanessa Mooncie, I think, Mooncie. And I have a link to it with the spelling of her name in the show notes. But when I bought this book, I'm not sure what I paid for it. And I can't find a price on it anywhere. But I did look it up, as I do, on Amazon. And it sells on Amazon for $26.53. And if you have Prime, it's free shipping. That's not terrible, really. That's in Canadian dollars, of course. That's not terrible for a book of this caliber at all. And you know, I should, and I keep saying this, I should really go through some of the books that I've been reviewing in a little bit more detail, because I bought them so long ago and I forgot I had them, and I'm being reintroduced to them as I do these reviews each week on my library. And this is one of those books I should really seriously look into in a little bit more detail. So, the printmaking book, if you're interested in learning how to do printmaking. Okay, so that takes me to, actually I skipped over. I did, but that's okay. A little out of, well, we'll just shake it up a little bit. I almost forgot what's pissing me off this week. Actually, until I started recording this today, I didn't have anything except my sewing machine that was pissing me off. But yesterday, I watched a YouTube video by somebody who does YouTube videos on a regular basis about cruising. And he made some comments. He's a Canadian. I'm not going to say who it is, because it isn't my intention to ever, badmouth fellow content creators. There's enough of that goes around. So I'm not going to mention who this is. I've been getting really sick, though, of his videos lately, and this is why. He's very knowledgeable about the cruise industry. He is a travel agent and that kind of thing. He does give some very valuable information. But lately he's been over-optimistic in the way he's been talking about the cruise industry getting back up on its feet and the way we're all going to go on a holiday. Yes, on the one hand, that's very optimistic thinking. But on the other hand, it's very unrealistic. And what he was saying yesterday in his vlog, he was really bad-mouthing our Canadian government for keeping our ports to cruise ships shut down until October 31st of this year. I'm all for that. Yes, I like cruising. I like going on cruises. But I also like to live, and I don't need to get a disease. And we've heard all the reports. And those aren't fake reports. There were people stuck literally for months on cruise ships. The ship to nowhere kind of a thing. The cruise to nowhere. Because of this COVID thing, right? And we've heard all the reports. And then they get off the ship, and in some cases, they got off the ship in the United States, and they weren't stopped, they weren't quarantined, they just got on a flight and went home and spread the disease. And we know how that turns out, don't we? So Canada's taking the initiative to say, no cruise ships. We're not jeopardizing our people or the communities these cruise ships would be stopping in. We're not taking the risk. Well, he is so much against that. And he badmouthed our government for doing something like that. Well, I couldn't resist. I seldom ever make a comment on a YouTube channel, in the comments section. I seldom do that. I had to on this one. And I basically said, I thought that the Canadian government was doing the right thing to be cautious about it and the whole bit. Somebody else made a comment about my comment, and their comment was, well, stay home then, you don't have to cruise. Snarky. Yeah, they're right. I don't have to cruise, and I intend to stay home. I don't intend to go on a cruise. I don't know if I'll ever go on a cruise again in my life, quite frankly. But anyways, certainly is not on my near or even somewhat distant projections right now, because we can't travel anywhere right now. So I wrote back and I went, you're right, it is my decision if I choose to go on a cruise or not to go on a cruise. But it is not anybody else's right to choose to go on a cruise with the possibility of contracting the virus. And it's not just their lives. If they don't care about their life, if they want to kill themselves, and you've heard me say this before, go right ahead. I can't stop you, and I'm not going to try. But don't you kill other people because you had to go on a holiday, you had to get on a cruise ship, and you brought home that disease. Simple as that. And we have precedents for this. So what I'm pissed off about is the fake news, to use a Trumpism, and false optimism. And that is being spread a lot in both the media and especially in the social media. There's a lot of people, I think, that are in denial right now. They still believe that this situation is going to be over. Today's June the 1st. They figure by the middle of June. By the end of June, they'll all be cruising. They'll all be able to go on holidays and the whole bit. The restaurants will be open again. The bars will be open. We'll be able to go back to pre-COVID life. No. Do you need to be hit over the head with a big rubber mallet? Come on. There's one thing to be optimistic. It's another thing to believe fake optimism. And that's what, like, this person I was just mentioning about the cruises. He delivers this all the time. He keeps telling people, yeah, this cruise industry is talking about opening up again by the middle of June, by the end of August, and this kind of stuff. And that gets people all excited. Well, yeah, cruise industry or any business wants to be open because they're losing money. For sure. Get it. We understand that. But there are a lot of gullible people out there, and they watch these and listen to this and believe that things are going to go back to normal soon. They are not. Call me a pessimist. But I'd rather be a pessimist and be safe than an optimist and be dead. Simple as that. And so that really pisses me off, that these people, like when you do a YouTube, when you're a content provider on YouTube, your status as an authority figure actually goes up. Whether it should or not, that's questionable. But because you're somebody using this media to, what I'm doing right now, to put forth my ideas about things, for some people, if they see it on a screen, it must be true. Think of the nightly news. I mean, smart people realize that the news is not unbiased. It is very biased. You can watch the same story on 3 different news programs and get 3 different perspectives on that one single event. And news people, and I used to teach this when I used to teach media in school to kids. I used to talk about this and tell them, show them how to detect, how to figure out what's right or what's true and what's not true. And it's not easy to do. I can tell you that. We can all be sucked in. But the media, because they're on the other side of the camera, that suddenly gives the viewer a sense that, hey, I should listen to these people. They must be important because they're on TV, or they're on YouTube, or they're somebody with their own channel or own web page or something like that. It's just what it does to us. And that is what I'm pissed off about, because there's a lot of fake information going around out there. There are people who believe right now that this whole situation with the virus is fake, that this is some kind of government conspiracy. Well, yeah, we didn't get a man on the moon. That was all a sound stage. The world isn't round. It's flat and it's hollow. And there's these things called the Greys and the reptilians who are really in control of our government. In fact, our governments are not led by humans, but by aliens. Welcome to the Twilight Zone. Yeah. Okay. I don't have any absolute truth that those things aren't true, but reasonable, rational people probably take it with a grain of salt. You know, we kind of think about it, but a lot of people aren't thinking about it. A lot of people are whining away because we've been isolated and we want to go out, and I got to get on my trip and I got to go visit grandma and kill her with the disease. And I haven't seen my children in a bit of time, and I haven't done... Oh, suck it up, Buttercup. Really? So, what am I pissed off about? False optimism. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that 2 weeks' time down the road, everything clears up. We've got a cure for the disease. We're back doing what we're always doing. And I'll be the first one to say, oh, I was wrong. And I'll be happy to be wrong. But I don't think I am. Okay, let's move on. Grimoire time. I don't have anything to show you that's new. I haven't bought anything. Surprising. Really. Well, I have bought a few things off Amazon, but they're not of any interest, you know. Do you want to see moisturizer? Don't have a lot of face left to moisturize, though, do I? One thing I would like to be optimistic about is that soon I can go get my hair cut, but I don't think that's going to happen either anytime soon. Okay, so today we're going to look at, if I find them here, we're going to look at how I created these 2 pages in my grimoire. So I've worked on the next couple of pages in my grimoire. These are pages 19 and 20. And I did this really quick. I'm getting a little faster on doing each of the pages. I don't know if it's because I'm starting to get a little tired of this project or what, but I went into my stash of mystical wizardry kind of things, and I found some more of those tarot cards I had before. So I just stuck those right onto the page just like this, and of course, like a lot of things I've done on this, I've let them hang over the edge so that when the book is closed, it's going to look a little fuller. I found this in my wizardry book, and I just cut it out. It's some sort of mystical circle of symbols and numbers and things. So I stuck that down into the middle. Found a couple of little saying cards from one of the paper packs, put those on, and finished off at this small little it's actually a button, but it's the degrees on a compass. And I took the shank off the back of it and glued it down, and so it gives it a bit of a raised look. Again, I'm trying to keep things from being too raised in this because this book won't close if I get too many. And as you can see, I have many more pages to go on here. Just as an aside to this, I don't think every one of the pages in this book are necessarily going to have something on them. I may have to take a couple of the pages near the end out, so this book will lay relatively flat and closed. On the opposite page, I found this little section on European wizards in that wizardry book that I've shown you before. I just tore it out, well, cut it out, and then I tore the edges and inked them, and I had a couple of more of those tarot cards left over, so I made it into a pocket and just slipped those in. And that's really all I did on these 2 pages. This one was very quick, as I said. It took me less than 15 minutes to put together. And so there we have pages 19 and 20 of the grimoire done. Okay, so that takes us to events in the past week, an update on my mother. Oh, yeah. Well, I think last week I mentioned at some point about the problems with her telephone. Like, she can't hear me, I can't hear her, back and forth. Mom, put it to your ear. No, don't answer the phone with your cheek. That kind of thing. Well, I called her yesterday, and she didn't have any problem hearing me. I didn't have any problem hearing her, so as I assumed, problem solved. But as I'm talking to her, I find out she has another problem. She hasn't had any television for the last week, apparently. I said, well, what's wrong with it? Well, I don't know. Well, you know, like she sometimes hits the wrong buttons. Not sometimes, a lot of the times. But we haven't had any problems with the television in a while. And I said, well, is it coming on? What's it showing you? No, it won't turn on. Nothing. I've got nothing. Well, You see, I don't know what that means. I mean, when one person tells you it doesn't turn on, you figure, okay, there's a problem with the power supply. In my mother's case, it could be on. When she means it's not on the channel she wants it on, this kind of thing. So I tried to diagnose the problem over the phone, since I can't go over there and fix it for her. And I couldn't, I don't know what the problem is. And then she says something very weird. She says, well, I said to her, did you get somebody to come in and take a look at it? Did you ask one of the staff? You know, you can ask the staff. They'll help you out with it. Well, I did. And, well, they don't know what's wrong with it. Although somebody said that it looked like one of the wires had been cut. What? One of the wires had been cut? She shares a room with another lady. Even if that lady would like to go over and cut something, she's in a wheelchair. She couldn't get at it. And I know she wouldn't want to do that. So I'm thinking, no, maybe there's a loose cable. You know, on these new television sets, everything is streamed, right? So you have a modem, and she does. And it's a possibility. It's also a possibility that the modem needs to be reset. That happens every now and then. And all you have to do is unplug it, plug it back in, and it'll reboot itself. Okay? But when she's saying the wire's cut, that sounds like something out of a murder mystery, doesn't it? They've come in and they've cut the wires. Maybe the same people screwing around with their telephone so they can't hear her. I don't know. So I said to her, okay, well, I'm going to phone the desk, on her floor, the nurse's station, and I'll inquire about it. My idea was just I figured this is something simple, and it's just my mother telling her version of it, her version of reality. So I phoned up the desk. I talked to whoever it was, and there's shifts, right? So it's never always the same person depending on the time of day you talk to. And I mentioned what the problem was. I said, okay, blah, blah, blah. My mother says this, blah, 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 blah. I'm just wondering, blah, blah, blah. Could you give it a check? Blah, 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 blah. So she said, okay, she would check that out. And she says, well, our handyman is in on Monday, so we'll tell him about it too. And, he probably is the best person to go for that right now because, one, I can't go over and check it out for her because I can't get in there, of course, because of the COVID thing. And I don't know about repair people from the service provider, whether or not they'll let them in. They probably don't. So there we are. And I mean, television is my mother's chief form of entertainment. So, she needs it. Either that or she'll just end up staring out the window all day. I don't know what she does all day, to be quite honest. But anyways, so I called and they said they'd check it out. And I said, well, can you give me a call back after you have, so I just know if there's more of a major problem or whatever. Well, guess what? I didn't hear from them. Well, okay. It's a nursing home. They're busy. And I don't like bothering them about things like this. So after I'm finished the vlog today, I'm going to get on the computer. I'm going to send an email to the administrator of the home. She's very good. I've talked to her many times about this, that, and problems, and she'll get right on it. She'll get somebody up there and the whole bit to check it out. I'll be very nice. I'm not making demands here or anything like that because I know they're all busy and I appreciate what they do for my mother. But, I am my mother's advocate. So that's the job I've been assigned in life. So I have to do something about it. So anyways, besides that, she's fine. Great. No COVID cases in her nursing home. Excellent. Okay, so the big thing of the week, though, is my Janome sewing machine. Broken record, right? Broken record. You've heard it all before. So I'll keep this short. It doesn't work. It went into the shop. They screwed around with it. They did some adjustments. They got it to work. I saw the result. I was happy. I thought, great, it's done. Well, actually, that thing I was talking about, false optimism, I try not to be that way. So I figured, yeah, I'll get it home and it won't work. Guess what? I got it home. It didn't work. Yeah. I'll spare you the grisly details. If you're really interested, I have an episode about that. It's in the show notes below. It's called The Idiot Quilter, Janome 15,000 Saga, Part 4. So, what are we doing now? Well, the latest plan is this. I'm going to take the machine in tomorrow. I'm going to exchange it for the store machine. I'm going to hang on to the store machine and use it as if it was my own machine until at such time they can get someone from the American head office of Janome to come to our area and to look at my machine. Apparently there's somebody there that does this, somebody who goes to Japan all the time. He's somebody that really knows these machines inside out. And of course right now though, our border is closed, the Americans and travel and all that. So this could be a really long time. Am I happy about that? Well, no, for two reasons. One, I can't do anything about this disease, and it's just unfortunate, but it's my luck that this would happen when we're in this situation, okay? Two, I don't know why they got it to work, and I get it home, and it doesn't work. It's like I'm jinxed. It's putting me right off of wanting to deal with doing embroidery or that kind of stuff anymore. It really is. Three, I have somebody else's machine. With my luck right now, I'll touch that machine and it'll bust. Four, is it me? Or is it the machine? I'm not doing anything wrong. I know because I've double-checked myself. Walter's double-checked me the whole bit. In fact, we've been experimenting on his embroidery machine, which is not as sophisticated as mine, but his works fine. Ironically, I did something yesterday on his machine to test out a pattern, and it came out wrong. He tried it. It came out right. What? And they experimented a bit more last night, and he left me some instructions for me to do something else to try and figure out what might be causing the problem. I mean, it's a long shot, but we're giving it a go. But it's consuming way too much of my time and energy. And that's what's frustrating me the most about this whole situation. Plus, I've got some embroidery projects I'd really like to do. Actually, a couple of there's one embroidery project as well that I paid a lot of money for the patterns, and it makes a beautiful Christmas wall hanging. And it's all done in panels and the whole bit. It's very intricate. Well, I may never get that done out of it all. So yeah, I'm fed up with it. I'm frustrated. I'm beyond the angry stage now. I'm just sort of I'm a little depressed about it, really. Because it is one of my chief hobbies, right? And I like things to work. So there you go. And I'm in this situation where I'm going, is it me? Is it me? What, I walk into a room and machines go, aha, we're going to screw this guy around. Whatever. As if they had personalities and were alive. Yeah, maybe the COVID thing really is taking more of a toll on me. If I'm starting to think that machines have secret lives of their own. Wow. Okay, let's not go there. All right, so enough about that. I'm not going to talk endlessly about my machine problems. If you're that interested, I have 4 videos on the Idiot Quilter about it. Okay, so, and I hear the clock on the wall dinging, so it must be time to leave. So, until next week, I hope you stay safe, stay healthy, and as I always say now, stay in. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.